7-6, 7-6.
Hello and welcome along to episode 16 of the Tennis Asia podcast, and we look back on a massive week for Chinese men's tennis. Bu Yunchaokete, the star. We also talk a little bit about the events going on into Shanghai. We talk about Kei Nishikori in Tokyo, a little bit as well on the WTA in Hong Kong. And joining me as ever to make sense of a very crowded schedule, Mr. Tennis Asia himself, Eddie McGee. How are you, Eddie?
Yeah, good. It's been quite a chaotic little, period in the Asian swing, but a lot going on, especially in China. We've got a tournament in Beijing that's just still going on the women's side, and we just had one completed on the men's side, and Shanghai's already begun. So it's there's so much going on, so a lot to talk about.
Tennis all over the place. We will start with China. We'll start with Beijing and the China Open. Jerry Shang, of course, came in there fresh off his victory in Chengdu. You actually did mention when we talked last week, might be a little bit of a hangover for him with a very tricky first round tie. It proved to be that, and it was his opponent who went on to be, well, the star from our part of the world.
Yeah, that's right. And then, of course, Bu had, done pretty well himself in the week before in Hangzhou, the 250. He had reached the semi-finals, so he came in good form. But of course, he'd had a little bit more rest because he didn't go on and win the title like Shang did in Chengdu. So yeah, first round in the China Open in Beijing. It's an ATP 500, and Shang did edge the first set 7-6, but I think he was playing pretty well. But as time went on in the match, I think the errors started to creep in, and as I said, Bu clearly, he's a good athlete, and he'll make you work for it. Nowadays, his rally tolerance is very good, and he just seems to be getting better and better. But even after that week that he had, in Hangzhou, and then eventually getting the victory over Jerry Shang in 3 sets, I didn't expect him to go on and do what he did in Beijing, which was pretty remarkable. As a wild card as well, he came in and he's obviously beaten, one of the home favorites in Jerry Shang, but then goes on to beat pretty comfortably Lorenzo Musetti 6-2, 6-4 in straight sets. A guy also who, by the way, actually had reached the final in Chengdu and lost to Shang. So there he goes and just takes out both the guys from Chengdu. Did well, and then that was his first.
That's enough. That's enough. It'd be no harm in losing to Rublev in the quarterfinals. It'd be a good week's work, but no.
So I mean, when he beat Musetti, he was 6th seed. That was his first top 20 win.
Right.
And then, faces Andrei Rublev, 4th seed, I think at the time, number 6 in the world. And then goes on to beat him 7-5, 6-4. Now, to be fair, because of the rain delays, Rublev did actually have to play a match in the morning because it started, I think, and then only played a few games, and then he'd had to continue that. But he did come through that 1-6-4, 7-5 against Davidovich Fokina. But then, against against Bu, I mean, to be fair to Bu, he was more than matching Rublev in the rallies. And of course, we all know the power, and how good he is. Rublev is from the back of the court, and incredible baseliner. He's just one of the best. And that's why he's been top 5 in the world. And but for Bu to do that and come through that, I mean, it was quite remarkable. I mean, obviously we talked about him a lot in this podcast and said, well, he seems to be getting very good over the summer. I mean, even those of us who watch tennis closely did not quite expect him to pull this off. But I mean, it was very obviously we know how good his tennis in terms of like it can be in the rallies, but then just mentally that he was able to stay composed and stay strong and be aggressive. And it's I watched Bu last year in this, that was sort of a bit of a breakthrough for him because he played the Seoul Challenger
It was here,
in
yeah.
spring last year, and he went on to win the title against Vukic in the final. I mean, I saw him actually there's a video I shared just after Bu's run on Twitter. I watched him on the outer court in front of about 5 people.
Right.
But at that time, I mean, I tweeted something like, "What a machine this guy is." What struck me back then was, he certainly wasn't hitting the ball as well as he does now, but he was, had a good serve, and he, you could tell he was very determined, and he was a good athlete. That's what, I could see then.
Right.
And then he ended up having a good week and winning the title. Didn't do well though. If that was the standard that he'd set, then he didn't really match it for the rest of the year. But then from this year, from April, he had a good tournament in Korea. I think he got to the final, and then he won a few tournaments over the summer at the challenger level. So yeah, this was clear that he was reaching good form, and he was making improvements. Yeah, so after Guangzhou final, then he won in China in Wuxi, and then he won in Granby in Canada, and then reached another final in Chicago. So these are really good results. And then of course he actually qualified for the first time at a major. He qualified for the US Open. I think he lost out to Casper Ruud in the first round, but he was obviously looking good. But I mean, it's really impressed me how well. I mean, when I watched him last year in that challenger in Seoul, yeah, the forehand looked like the better side for him. But now he really hits that clean and hard. It's quite amazing sometimes, and then also sliding out the corners. He's good at that on the forehand side, and getting passing shots up the line, and then also just general ability to hang there in the rallies. Without making errors, it's very impressive. I mean, yeah, unfortunately, when he had to go out through to the semi-final, he had to play Yannick Sinner, of course, the
Right.
number one player. And yeah, he was in the semi-finals, but it was still a respectable showing because he lost out the first set 6-3, and then the second set went to a tiebreak. So yeah, he only lost that second set in a tiebreak. It was 7-3 in the tiebreak. I mean, Sinner's tiebreak record is been ridiculous. It's this
Right.
year, so and that's why he's the number one player in the world. And then yeah, for Bu to do that though, it's really just sort of changed my perspective on sort of where he can go at the moment, because he's now up to 69 in the ranking, so that should be good for him to sort of, well, I mean, certainly he's going to be in the
Right.
Australian Open again, but then also just the ATP Tour tournaments, he's going to be able to get automatic entry in the entry list
Right.
from now on, for at
Far
least for
far
a
fewer
while.
qualifying tournaments required.
Yeah, and then let's see if he can build up points and possibly. I mean, some people were suggesting to me maybe he could be the number one, and I would never have thought that. The number
The
one
the, Chi-
Chinese
the
player.
Chinese
I mean,
number
because
one.
we've
Yeah.
got because he could, the Chinese number one, not number one in the world. Yeah,
That's
we're
like
not
Coleman Wong
seriously
ambition. That would be.
thinking. Yeah, right. Yeah, but of course, I mean, Shang has been the one that's been hyped, but I mean, because he's only 19. But I mean, Bu.
Mm.
What I would say that Bu has over him is sort of the physical attributes, it's a sort of toughness. He seems to be a bit more match toughness. So yeah, that obviously bodes well for him. I mean, talking generally about the tournament, it was a nice tournament. I mean, because you ended up with Bu in the semi-finals against Sinner. Sinner won that, and then the other semi-final was Alcaraz against Medvedev, and then you had the
Right.
final between Sinner and Alcaraz. I mean, that's the dream final, isn't it, for the tournament organisers? And yeah, it turned out to be a really good final as well. One of the best matches of the year.
It's. I know it sort of divides opinion. These schedules, and obviously we know why they do it. What with the Masters coming up as well. These tournaments which finish on well, we had the semifinals on Tuesday, the final on the Wednesday. I have to say, I really like that schedule. I really like it. Okay, we're in this part of the world. It was on TV in prime time, the finals in the
Mm-hmm.
semis and the final in the evening. Also, as an attendee, I would say if I was running my tournament, I like to go to tournaments early in the schedule to see quite a lot of games. They can do that on the weekend, which is when people can actually go watch on TV in midweek. I really like it.
Yeah, it's certainly different. I mean, there's been complaints or from some people, but I mean, yeah. So they start these tournaments in the midweek, and then because it was the same in Tokyo as well, which we could talk about in a bit.
Right,
But yeah, so in Beijing they started midweek, and yeah, they'll have the matches during the day in the first few rounds. But yeah, then still early rounds on the weekend. You get a lot of matches. People can go see the tennis. So yeah, it's good from that perspective. And then yeah, generally in the more towards the afternoon, evening, they'll have the semifinals and the final. I think it's a holiday in China this week.
mm,
So I mean, yeah, the Shanghai still. Sorry, Beijing is still going on, but then yeah, we've just had the Shanghai Masters, the men's tournament, just started yesterday, right? So
right.
that is yeah another midweek start because it's going to be going on until the end of next week.
The
So
following
yeah,
week, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So
Speaking of that ongoing, it is quite. Yeah, we do get a little bit of jet lag. Okay, Beijing's finished, but it hasn't finished. The women are still going. It's been pretty good for China there as well. We've got two Chinese quarterfinalists on the women's side, Zheng Qinwen, of course, but
mhm.
another one a little bit more of a surprise.
That's right. So Zhang Shuai, who I think we may have mentioned before, she was on that incredible 24 match
Lose,
losing
yeah,
streak, which was a record. I mean, that last uh, loss was in Korea, in Seoul. She lost to Kudermatova in straight sets. But then she came in to Beijing and actually managed to win a match, finally.
yeah.
And not only did she win a match, she just didn't stop. Um, yeah, so
London buses.
yeah, so she came through that first round against McCartney Kessler, the American, two tie breaks. I remember watching that match and thinking she was doing well, but she was struggling to get over the line because she had
Mm,
chances earlier to close out the match and the sets. But then she eventually came through two tie breaks, and I mean, it must feel really good to finally get a win after so
yeah,
long. Um, and she did actually talk about how her coaches and stuff were saying like, look, and people around her were saying, look, you've been playing well in some of these matches. One day you're going to win, and then you're going to win a lot,
right,
and it did come. So yeah, and then because in the next round she had to face the sixth seed Emma Navarro, of course, top 10
right.
player. And she came through in straight sets, 6-4, 6-2. It was actually quite a dominant performance. I mean, Zhang Shuai herself has been, highly ranked herself. I mean, she was the highest ranking she
Right.
has is 22 in the world um, in the singles. I mean, of course, she's been a top doubles player, which is what she tends to focus more on. Um, but I mean, yeah, just I mean, amazing for her to get that victory, and then yes, just to keep winning and eventually reaching the quarterfinals.
Borders, yeah.
And unfortunately, that is where her journey ended because she lost out today, to Paula Badoza. But nonetheless, an amazing run for her because she also came through Greet Minnen and Magdalena Frech
For,
in
yeah.
straight sets. So yeah, well, obviously this is in Beijing. She's came in as a wild card. She's got that opportunity. She's done wonders for her ranking. Surely now, because this is a WTA 1000 tournament. I mean, obviously this is at home, and you could say maybe the same for Bu as well. We're talking about Bu Yunchaokete. Yeah, he obviously is playing at home as well. I mean, it'll be interesting now. Can they take this forward and start winning matches
Right.
elsewhere? Obviously, in the women's, we've still got more tournaments in China. For him, I think I saw that he's entered into a challenger, Bu, and then
Oh, okay.
because it's in China in Hangzhou, they actually got a
Okay.
challenger
Yeah.
there, which was where they played
Mm.
the 250 before. Yeah, so it looks like he's still on the entry list. I mean, I guess obviously playing at home, it's nice for him. And then he'll be off to a 250 in Almaty, Kazakhstan. I think it's indoor tournament. So that's going to be interesting to see if he can carry on his form there. Obviously, indoors, it's a little bit different. Um, Going back to Bu,
Yeah.
though, actually, I just wanted to mention one thing, which was obviously Bu Yunchaokete, his name we talked about. He's from China, but he's also
Yeah.
got that name, which is actually just one single given name, Bu Yunchaokete, which is according to his Mongolian heritage from
Mongolia.
the northwest, more northwest of China, and yeah, so that's where he's from. Sometimes you might see his name on the ATP or ITF sites as either Bu Yunchaokete, separate Bu Yunchaokete or Yunchaokete Bu. It's confusing. But I mean, we were talking before about unlike say Jerry Shang, who came in, his parents were athletes, right? So
Yeah, his dad
and
was a
so he's
footballer.
got yeah, and his mum was it table tennis or
I think so. Yeah.
I'm or
Mm.
badminton. I'm getting confused here, but obviously
Mm.
they're elite athletes in China, and so he had you could say he was almost bound to be, a tennis player or some kind of athlete, right? But I mean,
Yeah.
with Bu, according to his, I've seen this in Wikipedia as well. According to this, he was when his father died when he was young, and his mother remarried, and ended up being brought up by his paternal grandparents.
Mm.
But his grandparents did not speak Mandarin, so in order to
Oh.
allow him to get a better education, they sent him to the city uh, nearby in his province, the main city there, to a children's village, and then. I think around the age of 5, he was discovered by a coach and sent to Huzhou on the other side of the country. I mean, obviously China's a big
Mm.
country. To Huzhou, which is on the east coast. It's way far away from the northwest of China. So, and then that's how he got into tennis, and was obviously, I guess, from a young age, he seemed to have some kind of something that caught the coach's eye. So yeah, I mean, here he is now, and what an amazing story, really. So a lot of stories this week for Chinese tennis,
Absolutely.
and because we've also got another one in the quarterfinals in Beijing, and that's one that's already, achieved the most of any of the current
Right.
Chinese players, which is Zheng Qinwen, who is
She's playing for
into
the
the
first time. I think is this her first tournament since the US Open?
yeah. That's wait. Yeah, so yeah, it would be right. It would be the first
Mm.
tournament since the U.S. Open, yeah, and
And she's made pretty stately progress so far. Just dropping the one set, I think it was, to Anisimova. I think it was in the last 16. She's got Mira Andreeva tomorrow.
yeah, losing winning from a set down against
Mm.
Amanda Anisimova. That was a good victory for her. She really turned it up, and actually, I think yeah. So when she played at the U.S. Open, she placed Anisimova in the first round and also came back from a set down.
Mm.
So being able to do that again is good. But yeah, Amira Andreeva. Obviously, she is the up and coming Russian player. She's only 17 years of age. It's going to be an interesting battle. Although you would expect at this stage, Zhang
Right.
should have too much for her, but nonetheless, it's Mira's obviously in good form, so that's an intriguing one. If Zhang does get through that one, then she will have to face either Arina Sabalenka or Karolina Mukova, both tough players, tough opponents either way. I mean, you'd expect Sabalenka to get through,
Right.
but yeah. Anyway, I mean, it's in Beijing. It's certainly, her at her home, and she'll be wanting to do well. She's never won a big title in terms. I mean, obviously she's just won the Olympics gold, so that's a big title.
Yeah.
I mean, on the main WTA tour, she hasn't won a 1,000 event, and obviously she's been in the Slam final. But for her to actually do this and maybe go to the final in her own event would be quite amazing. But obviously, many tough players to get through. If she
Right.
was to get to the final, she might even be up against Coco Gauff. I mean, that would be quite an exciting one. But let's maybe see in the
Yeah.
next episode if she does that.
Goff, of course, got through. She was one set all with Naomi Osaka, and Osaka had to withdraw. Otherwise, quite a positive
Mm.
tournament for Osaka. She got two good wins.
Yes, I mean, we almost forgot. I mean, there's a lot going on in Asian
There's
tennis
too
at the
much
moment.
going on, isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so
She beat
yeah, so Naomi.
Saver in the first round. Real battle it was.
That's right. So Seva, she got through, and yeah, that was a good win for Naomi Osaka because she's not an easy opponent, Seva, and yeah,
Mm,
obviously Osaka beat Musetti in the first round straight sets, and then to come back from a set down against Seva is very good,
yeah.
and she was very good against Volynets. I saw that, and she's hitting very well. She seems to be going, I think, even more aggressive than she was before,
Mm.
since the new coach came on board, Patrick Mouratoglou. I mean, certainly it's a good tactic because she hits the ball so well. I mean, she's got
She's got
power
that
that
power. Yeah.
few other players in the women's game can match. And yeah, unfortunately for her, she was up a set, and I guess she was trying to do is get that done in straight sets. But yeah, she lost that second set and immediately retired. It was the back. She said she locked up her back or something in training, but she thought she might be able to just try and play and get through it. Unfortunately for her, even after taking sort of anti-inflammatory tablets, I think she during the match that she just couldn't continue, and
Right.
probably for the best. I mean, she knows her own bodies, and she's got other tournaments that she'll want to be playing coming up. So hopefully she is able to recover and see her soon on the tour. And yeah,
So that
also,
tournament's going to continue through this. Oh no, go ahead.
well, I was just going to say that we could talk about another Japanese player.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Let's. Which one? I
Um,
mean, we've got about
on the
seven on
men's
the
side,
list to talk about this week. On the men's side, okay. Well, are we gonna shift over to Tokyo now?
yeah, I think we can do that.
Ah, okay. Let's shift over to Tokyo. We're going to talk about Kei to start off with.
Yeah, so Kei Nishikori, of course, he's coming back from injury and he's been playing regularly. Although he's had a few little niggles and setbacks here and there, but he has been playing, and he's been playing pretty well.
Mm.
And for him to actually play in his own home tournament, he hadn't done it in 6 years. That was a huge thing, and eventually got that. He got a victory as well over Marin Cilic in 3 sets. Cilic
Right.
fresh off his title in Hangzhou. And yeah, to get that victory over a guy like Cilic on a pretty quick court as well was really good. I mean, Nishikori was, hitting the ball so well as he does. And then he came through against Jordan Thompson 6-2, 6-3, a guy that is maybe a little bit underrated, Jordan Thompson, because he likes these quick surfaces. And,
Mm.
he's not like a big name, but he's had actually quite a few scalps. And yeah, but Nishikori was dominant there. And then he went through the quarterfinals to face the 6th seed, Holger Rune. And yeah, he won that first set. And
Right.
the second set didn't go so well for him. In the final set, it looked good for Nishikori because he was up a break at 5-3 and he could have been ended up serving for the match. And unfortunately, he couldn't take I think he might have had a match point, yeah, as well. And then he couldn't take it. And when he got broken back, it just felt like he didn't have anything quite in the
Right.
tank, physically, but probably mentally as well. I mean, he ended up losing from 5-3. He lost that final set 7-5. Rune took it. And that was a bit of a shame. And obviously we know, and it's clear because he's had victories over good players in his comeback. I mean, he beat back in Canada. He beat Stefanos Tsitsipas in straight sets.
Right.
I mean, so he's got the ability to play very well and beat good players. And the thing that's just obviously concerning is whether he's actually able to, last physically. But
Right.
he's still obviously probably getting his body used to being back playing regularly. He's just actually won a match though as well in Shanghai in
He
the
did,
first
and that was
round.
a tough one as well. So a three setter.
Yeah, and it did look as if it was struggling a bit physically as well, but he managed to get
Mm.
through against Mario Navoni, who's a guy that's who's been on the up. Yeah, came back from a set down, so a good victory, and but then he has to play Tsitsipas in the next round. Obviously, a big match, and that will get a lot of spectators, I'm sure, in Shanghai. But and he did beat him recently, but you would have to be a little bit concerned.
Right.
With his physical state, but I don't know. Maybe he's not too bad, and obviously he matched up well with him last time. So certainly it's going to be one that probably I and others would be watching when it does come around, and maybe we can sort of switch over then and just
Yeah.
talk more generally about
Uh, I think
Shanghai.
so. Just one thing I want to mention about the
Yeah.
Japan Open. I noticed the final was an all French final,
Ah,
which is it's quite unusual for this part of the world. I did notice also a British pair won the doubles.
who
A
won the
guy,
doubles?
Lloyd Glasspool and Julian Cash. They
Ah, right,
beat
right, right,
Behar and Galloway 12-10 in the Super Breaker after it was one set all.
right. Yeah. I've got to admit, I wasn't following the doubles at all really. But then yeah,
That was
so
I just saw the little British flags next to the next to the winners thing.
yeah, I think the only one that I actually watched actually was the Nishikori and Sakamoto. With Nishikori played
All
with
right, in the very
the 18-year-old
first
Sakamoto,
right. Mm,
but they lost out to the top seeds. But that was an exciting match, and just only because the atmosphere was so good. I mean, everyone, it was like a Davis Cup match.
mm,
Everyone getting behind, obviously the Japanese pairing, and yet Arthur Fils ended up winning over Hugo Humbert. Apparently, because I didn't see all that match, but I've been told by others it was one of the best um, matches of the year, actually.
okay.
And it gave Sinner and Alcaraz a run for its money. But Arthur Fils, an exciting player, he's only 20. So this
Mm,
looks like, at the moment, France's next top player. I mean, in terms, for a while, right? I mean, is this potentially a
right.
guy that might go on and win slams? I mean, still young. We'll
Mm,
have to wait and see, but he's already achieved a lot at this stage. I mean, this was his second 500 title. The first came in July, where he beat. I think we watched that one, didn't we? The one against Zverev. That was a
that's
good
right.
match,
Mm,
and that was on clay. So he's actually reached, you know, two clay finals and won two clay titles. He reached the final in indoor hardcourt and lost, but now he's got a hardcourt title here. So he's obviously he's got the success on the different surfaces, and we shouldn't forget he reached the fourth round in at Wimbledon this year, and he beat
mm.
Hubert Hurkacz in the second round. So certainly bodes well for his
It's
career.
a positive trajectory indeed.
Yeah, it'll be
Moving
interesting to see
over
how he does in
to
Shanghai.
Shanghai, we did have a little bit of a Tennis Asia Bowl in the first round. We had Wu Yibing and Sumit Nagal.
That's right, and this is a significant victory in the end for Wu Yibing over
Right,
the Indian player Sumit Nagal. Another Chinese success story in this Asian swing. And Wu Yibing, he'd had physical issues, injuries that has kept him out of the game for quite a while. He did come back and before, and he lost to, I think it was Coleman Wong of Hong Kong, because he had to retire after the first
right.
set luckily for him, though, for Wu this time, he got a wild card into Shanghai, and he won in straight sets 6-3, 6-3. And not only did he win, the score was convincing, and the match, in terms of the match play, it was very convincing. I mean, Wu, he's an exceptionally good ball striker, and he'll do really well on these kind of hard courts. He's very aggressive, and I think he hit 25 winners, and Nagao
Right.
hit like very few. If I mean, you're talking like 2 or 3 winners or something in the
Mm.
match, and she just couldn't cope, and it was nice to see for Wu to be able to get that win, and he goes through to the next round to play Nicolas Jarry,
Jerry. Yeah.
and if he does get through that one, potentially he'll have to face Carlos Alcaraz in the third round. So that would be quite something, obviously. And then, yeah, we had another All Asian tie in that little section in the first round as well, because we had Jerry Shang and Coleman Wong.
Right.
Shang of representing China, and Coleman Wong representing Hong Kong. So, yes, in the end, Shang came through 6-4, 6-4. I think in that second set, I mean, in the first set, Shang was up a break, and Coleman Wong did break back. But eventually,
Right.
Shang was able to get the break to take the first set. And then, sort of, I think Wong in that second set, he was also up a break, and Shang came back and won it. So, yeah, I mean, at this stages of their career, there's definitely a difference in level between them, and that's sort
Mm.
of how that turned out. And nice for Wong to get the wild card here.
And a
That was
nice
nice for
easy
him.
match for Jerry coming up in the second round as well.
Yeah, so this is the one that we're all looking forward to. Jerry Shang, of course, 19 years of age, fresh from his title in Chengdu, is going to play Carlos Alcaraz, who is the third seed. I think he'll be back now, though, that the rankings have updated at number 2 in the world. So, yeah, and obviously, arguably, the best player this year. Obviously,
Mm.
Sinner's at number 1, but they both have two slams each. So you could argue either way who's been better, but Shang, of course, is an exciting chance for him. He last played Alcaraz, I think, at the US Open, or was it? I might be in this. No, sorry, was it the Australian Open? And that was ended up being a very one-sided match, and
Right.
I think Shang might have retired actually. Yeah, so. But yeah, that's obviously a concern because we talked a little bit about his physical issues. But obviously,
Right.
being 19, it's maybe kind of normal to have a bit and before your body gets used to the rigors and still developing and all that. So anyway,
I'd
yeah,
love to
obviously,
say I could remember, but I can't.
yeah. I mean, this is yeah, but I think it's going to be good. I mean, I think Jerry's in a good place, and obviously being at home, this may be a chance for a good match. I mean,
Right.
um, who knows? But you'd still expect Alcaraz after his title in Beijing to
Sure.
get through that one, but who knows?
Who knows? Who knows?
Stranger things have happened.
Um, Plenty of other things going on around Asia. We can come back to Shanghai a little bit later if we need to.
Hmm.
One event going on the WTA side. It's not at full tour level. It's a 125 in Hong Kong. I will say it's going on in Victoria Park. If you haven't been to Victoria Park to watch tennis, do go. It's a wonderful place to watch tennis, and they keep making noises about building a new tennis centre the other side of the harbour, which will be a great shame. But it's a pretty decent lineup going on in Hong Kong at the moment. The list actually not that much worse than the Seoul 500 from last month. And of course, there is another Hong Kong event. I think at 250 a little bit later this month.
Yeah, yeah, it's good to talk about the Hong Kong tournament. I mean, yeah, that's in Victoria Park, um, and which is sort of like in the middle of the city, basically in Hong Kong, right?
So
And so
yeah,
it's a nice little venue, and obviously, it's a nice little size, a good size for a 250. And yeah, they got a surprise this time because Emma Navarro wanted to play. And so she got the wild card
Right.
and she goes in as the number one seed. Of course, it's very unusual for a top 10 player to play a 1-2-5 tournament. But here she is and got off to a good start with two victories in straight sets in the first and second rounds. Kim Burrows, she just beat there. I mean, Kim Burrows, one that we were used
Right.
to seeing on the ITF and sort of level or 1-2-5 levels in Asia. But yeah, it's probably a bit surprising for her to be having to face Navarro. But
Yes.
yeah, um, Sao Kao, the young
Mm.
Thai player, sneaked in the draw. She got a victory against Alicia Parks, American, in first round, but then lost to McCartney Kessler in the second round. Though San Kao, the young Thai player, she's actually because she got through a match in Beijing as well, and then she
Right.
did face Arina Sabalenka, and it looks like from the highlights that I saw, she gave Sabalenka a good game. It was quite a respectable performance. She seems to have good wheels herself, and yeah, she's only 22, but she seems like a good athlete and a good player in terms of she seems very determined. So yeah, it's certainly one to keep an eye on, I think. And yeah, also in that tournament, yeah, you had the comeback, the return of Simona Halep, of course,
Right.
former uh, Wimbledon champion and a French Open champion. Obviously, she had a timeout as well because she had the ban and from the doping incident, and then you know, yeah, but she's had struggles to come back, but now here she is, and she got the wild card. She won the first round against Rodionova. Unfortunately for her, she lost 6-2, 6-1 to Blinkova in the
Right.
second round. So, um, but I think Halep might also be playing. You talked about the other tournaments in Hong Kong. Yeah, she might be playing in the 250, which is at the end of this month,
For
and
this
that's going to have a
month, yeah.
pretty interesting interesting little entry list if the list that we saw was is correct, because you've got other guys, other women, other to play there, and like who was Danielle Collins, and Diana
Right.
Schneider, Leila Fernandez, Frech, Katie Bolter, Yastremska, Siniakova. I mean, you've got Raducanu supposed to be playing, Wang Jinyu, and potentially even Naomi Osaka. Obviously, we've got a few weeks until then, but it would be nice for the tournament if they did actually have all those names playing.
Right.
Certain, of course, we know it's normal that players can withdraw. But
Sure.
yeah, and then Hong Kong as well has the ATP 250, which will be at the big start of next season in the first week in January. So yeah, another little nice tournament there. If you're in the region, then it might
That's
be.
the one
I'd rec-
you
rec-
went to last year, or this year, I guess it would have been.
yeah, this year, yeah. So yeah, I went this year, and that's when sort of first little breakout really for Jerry Shang on the ATP tour, because he actually got to the semi-finals and he beat Francis Tiafo and then
Mm.
lost to Rublev, I think, in the semis. But then it was a three-set match, so yeah. So that was sort of a first sign of his potential there, and he did play pretty nice match, and I think he's developed even since then. So, but yeah, perhaps maybe he would return, and perhaps some of the other Chinese players would like to play that tournament.
Right.
Now they've actually got more guys that can play. I mean, you've got obviously Jerry Shang, Zhang Zhizhen, and Bu. Certainly now he actually has he could get into that tournament probably with his own ranking now. And of course we've got Coleman Wong, who is the local player. He'll probably get a wild card if he needs it, which is probably where his ranking
Yep.
now. But you know, yeah, that's another little tournament I'll be
All
looking forward to.
all looking good. Getting a little bit lost in everything that was going on. There was, of course, the challenger in Bangkok last week, the fourth challenger of the year in Bangkok. and we had
Mhm.
a qualifier winning it, Taiwan's Wu Lin.
That's right, yeah. So the non-Thaburi, which is the actual region it's in, which is just outside Bangkok, but I think they call it the Bangkok Challenger. It's non-Taburi 4, right? The fourth
Right.
one held there. I actually also was in Bangkok at the very start of the year and managed to go there the first one of the year. It was, you know, it's an interesting little venue. I think it's where the actual the Lawn Tennis Association sort of courts of of Thailand are there,
Right.
and so that was ended up being Wu Lin surprisingly winning that tournament in the end of Wu Lin of Thailand of Taiwan. Yeah, because he hadn't been such in such good form recently, and yeah, he actually had to come through qualifying to get
Right.
into this tournament. But when he did, he won in straight sets. The second round, he was lucky with the retirement from Yevseyev. But then, yes, two double breadstick in the quarterfinals against Sivachina of Czech Republic, and then came through a
Mm.
tougher one against James McCabe of Australia, who has been in quite good form. That was a tough three setter, but he did come through well, and I think he just seems to be. Sometimes it happens. He just hits a bit of form. I think he did well in the Davis Cup recently as well. He won a couple matches
Right.
for Taiwan and that, and then he ended up beating Mackenzie McDonald in straight sets in the final, which is obviously a great result for him, 6-3, 7-6, and that puts him back up. I think near the top 200 and possibly within. Maybe he can try and push on this year and maybe guarantee his qualification for the Australian Open. And should also say that Coleman Wong reached the semis there. He did lose out to
Right.
Mackenzie McDonald, although he also got a victory over Dan Evans in the second round and second seed Adam Walton. So, decent level player for him to come through. It's going to be tough
Yeah.
going for the end of the season for Wong because he's going to be trying and pushing for he wanted to reach top 100. It'd be difficult now, but not impossible if he wins a tournament. But he, maybe two tournaments. But he also wants to try and reach the next gen ATP
Next
finals.
gen. Yeah.
I think he was about eighth in the race. So it's touch and go, but that's being held in Jeddah, right?
Right.
Which is in Saudi Arabia. Obviously, there's a lot of money on offer. So, I mean, that's going to be interesting to see whether any of them, because there might be some players that don't play,
Right.
but maybe they'll be attracted by the money. I mean, because if you look at the players that are actually like in the running at the moment or should be playing, the top 8 at the moment, because
Right.
it's 8 players that will play. Arthur Fils, Alex Mickelson, Jerry Shang, Jakob Mensik, Luca Van Asch, Zhao Fonseca, Leonard Tien, and at number 8, Coleman Wong. So Coleman, at the moment, where he is, he could sneak in, but it is, I think it's 8, but then it might be 7 plus a wild card if they give a wild card
Mm.
to a local player. They could, I think, give it to, or they might just go with 8 because I'm not sure how many other local players there are that they could give it to.
Would be right. Would be
But
would be worthy of such a.
I mean, those that's
The
tough actually.
the challenger swing is now moving. I think we're coming up to, is it Hangzhou next week? That's set to
That's
be
right.
a pretty decent one.
Yeah,
Going
Hangzhou
back just to the
Challenger.
place where they played the full ATP event just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, the 250. That's the Hangzhou Challenger, which is coming up in starting on the 7th of October, main draw. So that's interesting. I think I said before is that Bu Yunchaokete is in that on the entry list because of now his rise through the rankings. It's interesting looking at the entry list because his entry ranking, which the challenger entry lists, it's a few weeks before, maybe 4 weeks before, 3 or 4 weeks, and so his entry ranking was 124. Now his actual ranking is 69, which means he will be the top seed at that tournament. He wouldn't have been, just a few weeks ago if his ranking was the same. So, and we've got James Duckworth, Hijikata, Alexander Vukic. These are Arthur Cazot, Adam Walton, Gabriel Diallo, and Billy Harris. These are familiar names in the Challenger Tour.
These are stalwarts of the of Asian swings gone by. Yes, indeed.
In terms of the Asian players that are in it, we've got Jason Shang, Shang Chun-shin of Taiwan, and then you've got Yasutaka Uchiyama in there. Obviously, he had a little nice little run to the quarters in that 250 recently. Mackenzie McDonald's on the list. Xu Yu-xiao, the one from Taiwan, he's there. So you've got from a few familiar faces. You've also got Yosuke Watanuki on that list, and wonder if he might withdraw because he's playing in Shanghai now, and he's someone coming back from injury, and he actually got a victory in the first round in Shanghai. So he might pull out of that one, depending on how his results go.
How far he gets.
I think Coleman Wong already did withdraw from that tournament, as did Hong Sung-chan from Korea. So I wonder if he's going to be off to the army soon, Hong. But
very possibly
probably not. I mean, they've got the tournament in Seoul coming up. And that's actually just reminded me of something. Of course, we've got Hyun Chung, who, famously beat Djokovic in 2018 and ended up reaching the semi-finals at the Australian Open. That was, obviously he kind of sort of he rose as quickly as he disappeared, sort of young, but he's back now. After the ITFs, he actually entered. He's been promised a wild card for Taipei 2 Challenger.
He's on the marketing material for it, so you'd assume that he's going to be.
So they must be pretty happy to have him on board. You've got all those regular Taiwanese challenger players will be playing, plus Hyun Chung. So that'll be good to see if he can sort of what level he's at. Maybe he can get a win or two under his belt, and then probably the week after that he'll be playing Seoul, which is the Seoul Challenger, you'd imagine. Maybe dependent on how that goes, but so a little bit to look forward to on this Asian swing and the Challengers.
Loads to look forward to indeed. Okay, just wrapping things up. What's going to be on the top of your agenda for tennis watching this week? Shanghai, I guess.
Shanghai, but we still got the rest of Beijing, the China Open, the WTA 1000 on the women's side. So certainly I'll be watching Shanghai, of course, that match between Jerry Shang and Alcaraz, but then also looking to see how Zheng Qinwen does. Can she get through her quarterfinal? That's the one against Mira Andreeva. Can she go all the way to the final and maybe take out Aryna Sabalenka? That would be quite an incredible achievement if she did it. So a lot to look forward to there. And also probably Wu Yibing as well. Be interested to see if he can back up his victory against some tougher player like what's his face? Jarry.
Jarry.
A lot to look forward to.
Tennis never stops. I'm pretty sure it's going on right now, so I'll let you get back to your watching of it. Thank you very much. If there's no other business, I'll see you next week.
Yeah, cheers. See you. Thank you.